Hello there and welcome to Breaking Convention 2025. This is a somewhat whimsical look at this pretty amazing conference. I've learnt so much already and I'm halfway through day 2, and I thought I'd just take you to the Great Hall, give you a chance to see what it looks like. And what you've got there is a couple of shelves full of fungi. There's cordyceps, there's reishi, there's lion's mane, there's who knows how many of the other different kinds of fungi on that stand there, and they've been provided by the Bristol Fungarium. So I came to Breaking Convention for the first time in 2013, and my most recent time before this was 2015, and there's been a lot of changes in the last 10 years, I'm going to put it that way, a huge amount. So just to give you a bit more of a view, so this is where the really big talks take place, and we started with one from a guy from a community called Embercombe, when he spoke very passionate about the nature of England and Britain, the mountains, the hills, the trees, the rivers. And what he was doing was he was reminding us that all this breaking convention, this connecting with the spirits of the plants, with the fungi, with the psychedelic substances, we have our own roots in this country. And the Liberty Caps and the Amanita muscaria are a couple of really great examples. Amanita muscaria, also called fly agaric mushrooms. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to see what it's like. This takes place every 2 years, and it's hard to believe looking at it, but this place was packed at the beginning of the convention. And I guess that's the main thing I want to say to you, is that since 2015 the spirits of the plants and the fungi are going mainstream. In fact, there were even 3 events to do with how people are starting to work with some of these substances in terms of creating legitimate businesses. 10 years ago that was completely unthinkable, so it's an indication how rapidly things are changing here. And the reason why I'm calling this a whimsical look is because I was just minding my own business, waiting from one event had finished, waiting for the next event, and some random dude comes up to me and offers me the opportunity to have a little micro of the cubensis, and they actually came from Dartmoor. So with an offer like that, the only sensible thing seemed to be to accept with alacrity. Savouring the flavour was an absolute delight. It was a really small amount. It was a really genuine microdose. But then people who know me, as well as I'm sure some of you do by now know that it takes very, very little to go a very long way. And I did find myself in a workshop maybe 45 minutes later, and he was talking about contraction, because everyone tends to think about all these psychedelics and plant and fungal spirits as being, it's all about expansion, and expansion is part of the process when we are having experiences. This is true, but there's this thing called contraction, and we've got to have a deep look into it. And you're speaking about hyper focusing, when you're able to zoom into very minute details, and when your awareness, rather than being on the obvious thing in the room, is to start to be focused on the less obvious things. And that was exactly what I found was happening. And from my perspective of being in union with the spirits of the fungi, I realised that although the guy was speaking about things which were in a sense interesting, it wasn't really leading anywhere significant. In fact, all he was really doing is using his rational mind to explain to people who don't know anything about these things just what it is that happens. And for those of us that know about these things, it's completely redundant and irrelevant. But for people who are making their first steps, such information is really valuable, especially anyone with a highly developed left brain or rational mind. They would have absolutely loved it. I did take notes. In fact, I took copious notes of most of the workshops here. I've got one I'm looking forward to this afternoon, which is the art of the doodle, when people doodle, but in the context of working with plant medicines. That's going to be an interesting one to look at, I know it is. And I've mentioned it before, I feel like I want to mention it again. The creative arts workshop I did this morning was so profound. And this is what I want to do. I want to say to people, anyone who's ever worked with me with nature's medicine in the last 10 years, I want you to know that a really big invitation to me to work with you with divinatory art was actually coming here and attending art workshops. It wasn't about doing art, it was just people talking about it and showing slides. But it was so encouraging. It created an epiphany in me, because I've been working with divinatory art, especially the 7 items drawing, for many decades, long before I started working with the plant spirits the way I do in nature's medicine retreats. So it was a really great thing that happened. So I've got a lot of gratitude and respect for this conference. That's just one example of where my perceptions were altered and I received an epiphany. And I certainly have received a whole series of epiphanies yesterday to do with my future directions. And I'm actually very grateful that I didn't take certain steps. There's certain steps I was going to take to relaunch my presence with nature's medicine retreats, and it felt to me like I'd been dragging my feet, and I realised no, I wasn't dragging my feet. I was waiting for the opportunity to have all these inputs of information, which is what I've been receiving ever since I've come here, and to get the epiphanies, and then to do my integrations, and then to work out what my next steps are. So I'm very grateful, especially that the 2 people have so kindly volunteered to help me in terms of the website and promotion. If I'd gone ahead with things I've been thinking about 6-7 months ago, I would have been wasting everyone's time, and I certainly wouldn't have wanted to waste other people's time. So I can see very clearly what the gap in the market is, what it is that is not being done, what it is that's being done. So the big breakthrough, I guess, in the last 10 years is a whole bunch of people have realised that the plant spirits are asking to be taken out into the world, and so are the fungi, spirits of the fungi likewise. And the most obvious people to be doing this work are clearly shamanic practitioners. However, there's a lot of other people in professions not remotely related to shamanism whatsoever who are also feeling the urge and hearing the call, and they are going out and they're working with people. And from doing a lot of listening yesterday, I realised there's a whole bunch of really basic things which I've taught people who've done my retreat host training, and no one knows these things. And it's in the preserve of shamans to be aware of these things. In fact, it's one of the qualities of the shaman is to be able to see that little bit further than most people can see, because we spend a lot of time in the other world as well as in the 3D world. And what we've got now is people who are almost entirely in the 3D world, and they want to work with people in this way. So I'm going to be relaunching my retreat host training, and I'm going to be working in a different way with all the insights which I've been obtaining, most especially in the last 48 hours, but also in the 5 to 6 months that have elapsed during the time that I had my original idea about creating a new website and all the rest of it. One of the things I've learned is that right timing is key and crucial. And astrologically, I know that we've had a lot of time where we've been held back, where we've been forced to go within, to reflect, to do our inner work. And you won't be at all surprised to hear that that's what I've spent most of the last 6 months doing, a huge amount of inner work. I also have my now 3 months experiences in India since May last year, and they are also reverberating and resonating and creating other awarenesses, and all that is feeding in. So I am feeling excited and passionate in a way I haven't for a very long time. And that's another thing, which is that we had a speaker, and he was speaking about fidelity, and he used this as the most interesting word in an interesting way. So he uses this fidelity. When someone gets inspired by something, then they feel the fidelity to what inspires them. So what's inspired me for the last 20 years is especially shamanism and nature's medicine, and that's where the majority of my attention has been going, as well as all of the creative and divinatory arts. That's all very much part of it too. So my job now is, having had all the time to do the inner work, all the reflection, put it all together, get it all out there. So to be continued. I look forward to sharing with you in the fullness of time. And for all those that have ever worked with me with Nature's Medicine, a huge thank you, a great appreciation, because everything we ever did together has been such an important part of my journey, as I hope it's been of yours. All the love to you.